It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is the 10th already? We into double digits in February, John?
It's the 10th, Brad. 4 days until Valentine's Day.
10th, holy cow. 10th of February, 2026. And we're into the B block, which means, what's that mean, John?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It is. And how we start things off in Brad's Top 3 is we start with...
It's number 3.
That's what we do. An article on St. Louis Public Radio this morning, John. I'm referencing an article on St. Louis Public Radio, which I find, oh my God, this is to me, this is, I don't want to say shocking, but it's almost shocking. The title for the article is, the headline is, Performance Venues and Cultural Organizations Are Seeing a Spike in Artists from Abroad Canceling Performances and Demonstrations and Rethinking U.S. Tours. John, have you heard this?
No way. Get out. Now, where is this from? National NPR?
Look here. This is from the Midwest Newsroom, which essentially is independent. No, the Midwest Newsroom is different. Who's the Midwest Newsroom?
It's a group. It's a progressive organization that syndicates their content across groups like St. Louis Public Radio, KCUR, and others.
So,
and it's housed, I believe Midwest Newsroom. There's members of the Midwest Newsroom that are housed at St. Louis Public Radio.
Here we go again. This is earth-shattering news, John. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
After planning a series of U.S. concerts celebrating Czech and Slavic heritage, Jaroslav Skuta, it's got the S with the weird thing over, it's not like an umlaut or anything like that, a Prague-based clarinetist, landed at Detroit Metropolitan Airport last summer, expecting to continue west for his first performance in Wilburn, Nebraska. You can tell he's really a big artist if he's playing Wilburn, Nebraska, right, John? Okay. Instead, U.S. immigration officers questioned his reasons for travel and rejected his tourist visa, which he said he had previously used to enter the U.S. He said his phone was confiscated, but luggage was searched, including his clarinet case, and that he was detained for 6 hours. By the end of the interrogation, he was denied entry and returned to Prague on the next available flight, canceling his scheduled performances in Nebraska and Ohio with several cultural organizations, including the Czech Culture and Education Foundation of Nebraska. John, is this horrible news or what?
Yeah, I think this is kind of the untold story of the fascist Trump immigration policies. Like, can you imagine growing up and being denied a clarinet performance?
Oh, my God. I mean, I'm telling you, I subscribe to the St. Louis Clarinet Association, and I go to all the clarinet performances in the St. Louis area. Did I ever tell you that, John?
You have, and you're known for voluntarily cleaning out their spit valves.
They don't have spit valves in clarinets. That's on Brad.
No, they don't. Brad, do us a favor, and if you scroll down to this piece, you'll see where Josie, who's the reporter, and her pussycats, you'll see where they report from. What does her bio say, Brad, if you scroll all the way down there?
It's the very bottom. Where's her? Let me go all the way down. Boy, it's a long article. I didn't read the whole thing. I'm too ADD for that. Man, I'm still going down. Okay, where's her bio? Midwest Newsroom is an investigative and enterprise journalism collaboration that includes Iowa Public Radio, KCUR, Nebraska Public Media, St. Louis Public Radio, and NPR. Is that what you want me to read?
Yeah, and then if you scroll down, it'll tell you about Josie.
And the Pussycats?
I should have just read it.
She reached out methods. Josie officials.
Keep going down, Brad.
Keep going further down. References, USI. Man, where am I going? Type of article, enterprise, and in-depth examination. Am I still going further down?
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
I'll just find it myself here.
She's IPR's arts and cultural reporter with expertise in performance art, visual art, and Iowa life.
There you go, Brad. That's the bio. Now, isn't that the kind of content creator that you want to hear about a clarinet from?
Yeah, it's a lady from Iowa.
But she focuses on, what did it say about culture and entertainment? What's that?
Experience in performance, art, visual art, and Iowa life. She's covered local and statewide arts, news, and lifestyle features for the Daily Iowan, the Denver Post, NPR, and currently for IPR. Fishers is a University of Iowa graduate. But see, I spent a lot of time in Iowa when I ran my company in Des Moines. And, there's culture in Des Moines. I mean, there's culture in Iowa.
I know there's field corn, There's corn that's for sweet corn. There's soybeans. There's a lot of culture there, Brad. What I love is that we're listening to an arts and culture reporter to tell us what's wrong with America's immigration system.
The interesting thing about this is I am a big fan of Leonid and Friends. Are you familiar with who Leonid and Friends is?
No idea.
Leonid and Friends is an extremely talented group of musicians head by Leonid. I don't know his last name. He just goes by Leonid, Leonid. And they do covers. They started out doing covers of primarily Chicago music, and they branched out into doing Earth, Wind, and Fire, stuff like that. And they've become extremely popular in the United States. Matter of fact, I think they've been here in St. Louis a couple times. They played Kansas City, and they have these long tours. These guys are all Russians. And I think there's a couple Ukrainians in there as well, too. But they're all Russians. How does a whole group of Russians who we're currently not happy with because they're beating the crap out of Ukraine, how in the world do a group of Russians get into the United States multiple times to tour around the country? And producer Christy has even researched this for me. She knows the whole situation with Leonid and Friends. How in the world do they get into the country, but this clarinetist does not? John, can you probably come up with some explanation of why they're...
Yeah, I think so. I think the Russians go to Iowa because there's a lot of corn vodka that's produced there. And you want to get the intellectual property of some of the drunk Russians. I don't mean to stereotype, but drunk Russians is generally, from my experience, redundant. And you want to have the Russians come in and teach you a little bit about how to make vodka from corn.
So you want to get Leonid and Friends drunk and steal their instruments? Is that what you're saying then?
Whoa, Brad. Hey, I don't know what you're doing with Leonid's instrument, but I think he wants to hear story number 2.
Okay, number 2.
It's time for Brad's number 2. It's time for Brad's number 2.
John, you're somewhat of a financial guy. And do you do anything with crypto at all? Do you do any crypto stuff?
Yeah, Deedum Tots, Brad. I pay pretty close attention to crypto. And, it's fashionable for everybody to say they sold at the top. But, I would just say that I have virtually no exposure to cryptocurrency, period, right now.
Okay, here's my question. I have nothing to do with crypto, so I thought you might have a hand up on me on this one. The sad story of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie and her other siblings. The deadline came and went yesterday afternoon for $6 million in crypto, in Bitcoin, $6 million in Bitcoin. And the thing that caught my attention was the guy from TMZ, I think the head dude, he's the guy, he's like the founder.
Yeah, kind of the skinny, short, super gay guy.
Right. He comes out and says, well, I checked the account and it shows a balance of 0. How is that possible? How can you check someone's crypto account? And
that's a great question, Brad. I think you could choose to, what I'm guessing is happening with the ransom situation. It would be like, let's say that you were not a member of what's kindly known as the unbanked. Let's say you actually had a checking account, Brad. You could put your Bank of America checking account. You could make the account public, and you could let people see what your checking account is. There's a way for most cryptocurrency things that you could either choose to keep your account information, like the visibility, to be nil, where no one could see what is in your account. And I'm guessing there's a way. I can't imagine who would want to do this unless you were asking for a ransom. But someone saying, okay, you can see what is in this account. You can see the balance of this cryptocurrency account. You see what I'm saying? I think it's as simple as having to do with your settings.
Okay, why in the world, you just mentioned that about a bank account. Why in the world would you want to make your bank account public where people could see how much money are in your bank account? Why would you do that?
Well, it's an analogy, Brad. It's an analogy to what's happening with crypto. So I can't speak intelligently on what's going through the mind of someone who's holding an old lady allegedly hostage for ransom, for Bitcoin ransom. But again, I'm guessing that they're making this public. They're making their account balance for crypto public to say, hey, here's the account, everybody. Unless the money goes in, we're going to off this old lady.
Yeah, but the problem on that is that to me, that would give a leg up on the law enforcement people. I mean, see, if I were going to do that, and I would never do that because I would never want anybody to know had the ransom has been paid or not paid, or maybe even partially paid. Maybe they could only come up with...
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, Brad. And so, I don't know what the logic with that would be, but I also don't understand whoever is responsible for what happened to this woman, it doesn't seem, I just don't know what they thought their contingency plan would be. If they don't get a ransom, how do they think they're going to get away with this?
I think, this is my theory on this, I think this is just some weirdo that kidnapped her and, pray that she's still alive. And there's somebody else who's pulling off essentially a hoax on the situation with the
Savannah to use her publicity to actually make money off this, but they're not responsible for the kidnapping.
Right. And there's so many of the experts. All you have to do is go and look at any publication. They talk to this guy, used to be an ex-FBI guy, and they say that this case is very off the rails as far as how this normally goes. And essentially the thing that they all of the experts keep saying, there's been no proof of life. And it's almost like one of the parts of the equation in a kidnapping. If you want to make sure that if you're going to spend your hard-earned money for a ransom, you're going to, in this case, put $6 million into a crypto account, into a Bitcoin account. You want to make sure that the person you're paying that money for is still alive. And I've heard the experts say, well, now the thing is with AI, they could create an artificial video and stuff like that. But the other experts say, no, it's pretty simple. All you do is you ask questions of this person. You say to the kidnapper, and you say, okay, have my mom, in this case like Savannah, have my mom tell me what was the first car she owned, because the kidnappers.
Yeah, or where was the family reunion in Kentucky last
year? Right,
or
where did she meet her husband? How did she meet her husband? Because that's probably not on the internet anywhere. Maybe with her it might be, but something to the point where what was her husband's favorite TV show or something like that? That kind of thing. But I know the whole thing is so sad. I mean, I feel so sorry for the family. And the crazy thing about this is not me being mean to Savannah or stuff like that. I've said it before. I said it last week.
RHIP, Brad.
Rank has its privileges, because if this were you and I and somebody kidnapped our moms, matter of fact, if somebody kidnapped my mom, they'd give her back because she'd just annoy the crap out of them. But anyway, the idea being is that we would not have the FBI and sheriff's deputies guarding the house and stuff like that. They'd say, okay, we'll check back with you in a couple weeks. Bye. Talk to you later. Bye. See you.
I get that. And you know what? If somebody else's mom, if the average citizen's mom was kidnapped, they wouldn't be talking about it on radio and television programs every day either.
You're exactly right. Ready for number one?
Yeah, let's do it.
And now, big finish, Brad's number.
Okay, here it is. John, hold it. The ceiling tiles are parting. Oh, my God.
Who's it going to be? Is it Camille Winter?
It's my journalism.
Well, it's not your mom from above. Who is it?
It's my journalism professor, Dr. Camille Winter. Dr. Camille, thank you so much. Brad, I was watching you yesterday. I saw you make the phone call to the Florissant City Hall, and thank God you're using your journalism skills. So good. So proud of you, Brad. I'm so proud of you. I've got to get back to work. But keep up the good work, Brad. Thank you, Dr. Winter. Thank you so much. We talked about the houses that are going to be torn down in Florissant yesterday, which were on the contaminated, at the time, the floodplain of Coldwater Creek, right behind the Schnooks there at Lindbergh, across the street from Manresa, I believe is the cross street. There's a traffic light right there. There's now a Schnooks. There's a Bandana's Barbecue.
It's near Mattingly's, I think. We did a good job describing that yesterday.
Across the street from Mattingly's. Okay. I put in a call to Mayor Lowry of Florissant yesterday, and I went through the phone tree, and I hit 4 for the mayor's office, and I left a message for his assistant, and she was very nice and called me back and said the mayor was very busy yesterday, but he will call me today. And the reason I did this was, A, I want to see if I can get one of those houses. I'm going to essentially say, Mayor, you know what? I want to be a North County boy again. I want to be a NoCo boy, because I have this radio show with this very important guy by the name of John Combest, and every morning I'll talk about, man, I love living back in Florissant. Well, I never lived in Florissant, just lived in unincorporated North County like John did in the infamous Spanish Lake area. I want to go on this radio every morning and say, God, I love living in Florissant. I can just walk out my back door, walk through Coldwater Creek, and I can be at Schnucks buying my donuts early in the morning and then come to work. I want to live in Florissant again. I want to live where the cool people in Florissant live. But there was one interesting thing in the story. I did a little bit more research on this. I guess this is the feds have bought out these 4 or 5 houses. I think there's 5 houses there. But the interesting thing was they said they're going to demolish the houses, but then the land will be turned over back to the landowners. Now, why would you want the land back if it's polluted? If they're paying you for your house and they're going to demolish the house and they're going to scoop it out under the dirt, which was under your house and around your house, why would you want the land and why would they give it back to you? Don't you think the federal government would just essentially take it and make it to the point where nobody could do anything with it anymore?
You would think so, but maybe it's just a courtesy to them. Maybe they know that eventually the government is going to have to buy it back. So if you owned one of those houses, you at least have the right to the property, which is some kind of asset that in the interim you could borrow against. You could do something with that asset value instead of just having it stripped away from you.
John, I guess they don't do what they call, are you familiar with I think I brought this up one time before, what they call phase 1 and phase 2s? Do you know what this is?
Yeah, I remember you explaining this. Go ahead again, though, Brad.
The situation is if you're a business owner and you're trying to buy a business piece of property, it doesn't necessarily have to do with residential, although in some areas they might require it, like in Florissant, if you live near the Coldwater Creek. A phase 1 is an environmental study. Essentially what they do is where they go through and they check the records. There's some companies that do this and they check the records to make sure that there's never been like a hazardous chemical plant that's been on that property. And if you know what's going on, like with the situation out there in West County and certain parts of Wildwood with the Russell Bliss thing, where he contaminated the Old Times Beach area with the dioxin, but he also had some of it in his house. Hey, wouldn't you like to know Russell Bliss when he said, hey, what's those 55-gallon drums you're bringing home to your house? Well, they just got some chemical that I got for free, and I'm just spreading it all over the place. No, and then the phase 2 is if you have a problem. Most of the time, commercial lenders will want you to do a phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 2 is where they come in and they actually do boring. They do boring and they pull up, soil samples and they test it to make sure that there's no crap in there. Not KRAP but CRAP.
Yeah, and listen, when it comes to boring, nobody knows boring like you.
Thanks, John. You're so nice. Okay, so hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to give you a report directly from the mayor of Florissant, and I will.
Nice. Now, when you ask him these questions, Brad, you're gonna lead off with asking if you could buy the properties.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Which is you being a little bit of a court jester to the king and being like, haha, and then you guys can do an old man laugh about it. But are you gonna ask him anything? Like, what else are you gonna ask him about the land there or their approach or things like that?
Well, remember the thing that in the article talked about the fact that he was supposed to be in the loop and he's complaining he's not in the loop. Remember
so maybe he could kvetch about that a while to you.
Why do you think I'm just making fun of this, John? I mean, to the point where I'm telling you, if the price was right, I would buy one of those houses. I don't care.
You think the federal government would allow someone to buy property that's literally radioactive?
Well, I mean, here. No, John, think about it for a minute, okay? Right now, this very moment, you could probably buy, there's places in Bridgeton, which, there's places all around North County that have been determined to have this radioactivity in it. You could go buy these pieces of property. You could
like your home on Claudine where you used to go pee in the backyard. No. And that's radioactive. Nobody wants that land anymore. I would put a historical marker there. And they say, John, what would it say? And I would say, just go to Brad's transmitter site. Look what he wrote about Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea and just copy that language. Say they had their bodily fluids here. Isn't it amazing?
They see what John is referencing is that I've done much research on this at the Crap transmitter site. The reason it's called the Crap transmitter site is because when Lewis and Clark made their journey, and matter of fact, the interesting part of this is the people in Washington will brag about Lewis and Clark being in Washington. Lewis and Clark were never in Washington. They stayed on the north side of the Missouri River during their journey out and journey back. And I have done extensive research, and the Crap transmitter site, which is on Highway 47, a mile north of the Missouri River, was where they dug their latrine. And so that is why it's called the Crap transmitter site, because it has fossilized Lewis and Clark crap from 1804 and I think 1805 wasn't that the journey what they did was 1804 1805?
It was roughly then, and they also predicted the future, and they knew Brad would tell that story so many times on his radio show that they invented an acronym which was kill repetitive anecdotes, please. And that's where Brad got the call letters for. He didn't even know at the time that it would stand for kill repetitive anecdotes, please.
Is that sort of like,
but that's what it stands for.
Is that sort of like keep watching the Ozarks? Is that, that's
That's exactly what it is, Brad.
Okay. We have to take a break.